Ladies and gentlemen, please silence your phones and hush your babies. The show is about to start.
Hi everyone, Nemo here. Welcome back. Happy New Year. I'm old now, officially. I'm in my late 20s. Welcome back everyone to the first live stream of the year. We're going to look ahead to what we think Mormonism has in store for the year. I'm going to be taking all your thoughts and predictions and whatnot. And I say we because I'm joined by the man that you couldn't get enough of last time and were so angry at me for halting him during his words that I have, in fear of reprisals, brought him back onto the show. So here's Peter. And Peter's muted.
Be very afraid.
Yeah.
My people will hunt you down.
Peter's supporters are armed and well organised.
I love them. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Interrupt me more. It makes me incredibly popular.
It does. It absolutely does. So the more I interrupt Peter, the more you love him. So he's like a weird sort of hydra of ex-Mormonism. Is, you know, you try and stop him and three more grow in his place. That's what Exmo podcasters are like these days, right? It's just, you think you've got all of them, and then another one starts.
There's more. They're popping up. So what's it mean? What do you mean by late 20s? This mean like 25 and 5 minutes or something?
Well,
where are we at specifically?
So 20 to 23 is your early 20s. 21, 22, 23 is your early 20s, right?
Yeah.
24, 25, 26 is your mid 20s. And then 27, 28, 29 is your late 20s. Yeah.
Okay, that seems logical. Yeah.
I've just turned 27. I spent it up the side of a Scottish mountain. That was fun. And
did you eat a biscuit?
I ate a jammy dodger. Yes, I did.
Jammy dodger. Yeah.
They will come up later in the show as well. I like how my love of jammy dodgers has become a bit of a meme. If they weren't so heavily copyrighted, I'd make some merch out of it. But I don't quite know how I can do it. Yeah. So
hey, you've got enough merch going on, dude.
I have plenty of merch. What is that you have there, Peter? A lovely opposition in all things candle.
This is opposition in all things candle, and it does smell of Nemo. It literally smells of opposition, intelligence, wisdom, youth, like a baby's head. Oh, it's so good. And it comes with matches with the little logo on. Isn't that brilliant? With a horse blowing a trumpet.
Yeah. So there we are. I am much more upbeat, as you can probably tell, because I've taken a little break over Christmas. It was much needed. And Peter, you have such a following that Miss Connie says they paused your latest video just to watch this. So
there we go.
I'm
bringing more viewers to you.
We can. I was going to do this at the end, but why not now? Peter's just released a new video. And how long is it, Peter?
It's only 3.5 hours.
Only 3.5 hours.
It was going to be 10 hours, but I've chopped them up into little baby ones. Like almost they're fleeting. Just 3.5 hours. There'll be a few coming out in the next week or two.
Do you do this in America? I think this might be a very British reference. You know how when they squeeze a house into a gap on a street so it becomes like 31A and 31B? I don't know if they do that in America, but that's what Peter's doing with his episodes now. Rather than one long episode,
that's how I number my episodes.
A, B, C, and whatnot. Yeah. Someone said 3.5 hours is a YouTube short for Peter.
Exactly. I'm getting with the 21st century, everyone.
There we are. So
the short attention span of the young.
We're looking ahead to 2024. We are going to have some predictions. We're going to have some thoughts. And I want to cover the things that I missed when I was off for like a week and a half. You take a week and a half off, and honestly, the church tries to sneak some stuff by you. My goodness. But no. Let's start, though, first with something that I missed in November. And Peter, you said you hadn't quite seen this. But it's related to some news articles that just came out this month. There we are. This is our mate, Kevin Pearson. of the Strengthening Church Members Committee and the Utah Area Presidency, saying, well, this.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has never been stronger. Here in Utah, the church continues to grow in numbers, in faith, and in spiritual strength. There has never been a better time to live on the earth, and never a better time to be a member of the Church of Jesus Christ. In every age cohort, church members are stronger and more faithful than ever before. The narrative of a chorus of church critics would suggest that the church is in decline, but that is simply not true. There have always been those who choose to step away from the time of Christ to the present day. But the prophetic destiny of the Savior's church is marching on, here in Utah and across the world.
Well, I mean, here in Utah,
The Church
maybe,
of Jesus.
because,
Because
across the world,
they're moving there from California.
I mean, yeah, call us, consider us told off. Let's go back to, well, I can't say let's go back to church. I was there this morning. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, okay, cool. Nothing to do with the fact that in November 2008, at a secret church briefing that was leaked, they said that by the time people get into YSA, there's only 30% of them left and only 20% internationally left of young people, which means respectively 30 and 80% of people leave before they get into their
70 and
YSA
80.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, 70 and 80.
Mad.
But don't worry,
And
there's never been a
much
better
worse
time,
since
and
then.
we're very strong. And that's 2008. What's
Yeah.
it been?
How many years ago was that? Oh, maths.
5 onto the 10.
15 years
like
ago.
15 years.
15 years ago.
15
Yeah,
years
it's
ago.
got way worse since then.
Yes, it has.
They're hitting 80% gone much earlier now.
Well, in fact, we know it's
So-
got much worse because a study has shown, thanks to Jana Reese, that Utah is not even a majority Mormon state anymore, according to some research. Peter, your thoughts? Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no, go ahead. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's utter nonsense what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the man is just a liar. But notice the change in jargon. So he wasn't talking about when he got specific. I think he said something about numbers earlier, but he was saying in strength. He said in every cohort that the church members have never been stronger in every
And
age group.
I think that
It's like,
may be true.
What?
That may be true, though, Peter,
Well,
because I think
because
what
only the
happens...
fanatics are left.
Exactly. Once the moderates all leave, you're just left with
Yeah.
the really tight-knit fanatical group. I think I can talk about this here. I go to church, did you know? And I gave a testimony because it was fast and testimony meeting. So I got up and I gave a testimony because the person that got up before me said, what if the Book of Mormon and the Gospel are true? What are the implications? What do we then have to get out and do? I thought, I can't let this lie. So I got up and I stood there and I said, what if they're not? What do we do then? That's a question that we've all asked ourselves, and it's one that we're probably all quite scared to ask ourselves. But what if it's not? We need to get comfortable with that, because otherwise people are going to ask themselves that, think there's no one they can talk to, and they're just going to leave. If you want to keep your friends around you and your community together, let's stop demonizing doubt, was basically my testimony in a nutshell.
And let me guess, you were followed by a lot of people desperate to bring back the spirit and bear their testimonies and fix
the next
fix
two
the
people
disaster.
came up and gave the most sort of primary child testimonies you can sort of imagine, because they were desperate to declare what they know. And that happened again a bit in Sunday school, but we'll come back to Sunday school later. But the reason I mentioned that is because I'm still there as what I would view as a moderate voice. But in response to me, you get a lot of the sort of the very simplistic binary thinking fighting back. I'm sure I had a more reasonable point, but I lost my train of thought. So Peter, I'm going to let you speak to this.
Oh. Well, it's about these numbers, isn't it? It's I don't know if we were going to talk about it later, but part of my thing is saying to people, this is what happens after your ward supernovas and all the more open-minded, nuanced people are driven away. What do you have left? You have like a white dwarf star that's cold and intense,
Mm-hmm.
but kind of lacks color, of just the people who, and I think the biggest epiphany reflecting on last year for me was to really accept that there are quite a lot of people in the church now who, and always have been, but they're the only ones left now, for whom Phariseeism is their actual religion. They're not
Mm.
Christians. They just want to come and have a repeated ritual, say the same primary answers in Sunday school,
Yeah.
which is more dumbed down than ever. We'll talk about that, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's their religion. But when they conceptualize religion, it is you do the chores, you do the jobs, you wear the right clothes, you say the right Tudor English in your
Mm-hmm.
prayer, and then you're holy, and you can measure that. And Pearson, well, what criteria are they judging strength by?
Mm.
You know, it's not going to be loving your neighbor, is it? It's not going to be compassion. It's not going to be
It'll be the same way they judge
standing with
strength
the
for new
lost sheep.
units, isn't it? It'll be the way they judge strength
Yeah,
of new
yeah.
units. Tithe
Well,
payers,
yeah,
active priesthood holders,
yeah.
sacrament attendance.
Mm.
Yeah, nothing to do with
Yeah.
ministering, nothing to do
No,
with
none of which is up numerically. So,
no.
but he's talking about quality rather than. But when there's only 5 people doing the whole list stronger than ever, as you calculate it, you don't have a church anymore.
And
It's
at
gone. The
what
growth
point are those
mindset is
people,
kaput.
as fanatical
Yeah.
as they are, at what point are they stronger than 30 moderate members? Do you know, like,
Yeah.
at what point
Yeah.
does it shrink to the point where they can't really say that it's stronger because
No.
numbers keep going down
Mm.
and those people keep
Yeah.
being the more and more fanatical? And the problem is
Mm.
those more and more fanatical people, they almost can't. As they truly get fanatical, I don't think they're going to ever be assuaged by the leaders of the church, and that's
Mm.
where you get things like the Lafferty brothers, who see it as their job to change something because they're going to need ever more extreme doctrines.
Mm.
It's something I've been thinking about a lot this past year, and something I want to explore this coming year is the need for religious moderates. You know, that there will be people in the chat and there will be people in the ex-Mormon community who say the church just needs to disappear, right? The church just needs to go.
Yeah.
And that is one way of doing things, I suppose. But if you're going to try and change religion into a force for good in the world, that's going to take a lot more moderates staying around, because
Yeah.
the only way you'll get it to turn into a force for good from that perspective is to keep people with that perspective within the organization. And so and religious fundamentalists and very extreme religious views are often the most dangerous. So you look at other religions in the world and you see that people that take a very extreme view of their religion are often willing to do very extreme things in the name of that religion.
Yeah.
And those aren't the people you want left.
And that's been
if you're going to have religion,
no, and that's been the story. Yeah, that's been the story of 2023. We've suddenly gone from complaining about something offensive said in a general conference talk and some document from the 1800s coming to light, to tabloid headlines of murder, kidnapping, massive financial fraud,
Yeah.
etc. You know, child abuse, the whole shebang. It's just gone nuts, and it's not lone individuals. They're parts of whole demographics of the larger membership, particularly
And I
in
just wonder what
Utah and
part
Idaho
the
and wherever.
moderates, particularly
Yeah.
moderates in leadership and moderates on a local level, as they leave,
Yeah.
whether they create too much breathing room for
Yeah.
these sorts of more radical views, and whether
Well,
those
well,
people,
they literally do.
you
Yeah.
know,
Well, we're seeing it. You know, the church has made the fundamental error of always shutting up the people with the more open-minded, more rational, more analytical points of view, and pandering to the people who will get up at a pulpit and declare unfailing, complete conviction that whoever is a prophet and so on. But then they ignore the crazy stuff those people say the other half of the time,
the
because
books they write
they've
and
bought themselves.
yeah,
Yes, yes, and the other things they say from the pulpit even, and those testimonies are not robust. They're not good missionaries. They're not bringing people into the church. They're chasing them away. They're in their own bubble. They want to keep things as they are. But then what's really interesting, and I think is going to be a growing trend this coming year, is the people who like the Midnight Mormons, now Ward Radio, who I've started listening to a bit more in small doses, or you get ill, have the more they talk, as most of us who used to be apologists have experienced, the more you actually concentrate on having discussions about why people are leaving and the problems in the church, they eventually get there. And this is one of my episodes that's coming out shortly, is looking at a really fascinating conversation or two they had, where they basically start agreeing with us that the leadership are too old and that their age group are being decimated, that there are very few young people left, even in their age group now as young fathers and so on. So that's even the shock jock apologists for the church are admitting that narrative from Kevin Pearson is complete nonsense.
Can I
The people are
jump in
leaving.
here
Yeah.
to thank Catherine
Yeah.
Class and wish her good luck on her audition that she's got later? She mentioned in the chat. Thank you. I'll be rattling my cup for shekels later. There's some things I want to try and do this year that could do with a bit of financial support, but we'll get to that. I'm trying to get a bit more comfortable with asking for support, because ultimately the content is your reward. Because shall I announce? I'm gonna do my best to get in a pen with tapirs this year. We'll just say that I'm gonna do my best to get in with some tapirs in real life,
Awesome.
to just have a bit of a chat, shall we say? And now, if anyone. If any other
I wonder if
individuals...
tapir poo has healing properties. You could start a doTERRA brand.
If any other podcasters decide that they're going to go get into a room with tapirs, you heard it here first. Thank you very much, Doug Vincent, for your support. So let's move on.
Hey,
Peter.
Doug.
But it's always great to see Doug Vincent.
Bring it. What's more next?
Well, the way the church is growing is in their real estate holdings, right? We started out the year with a story about the church buying $174 million Miami industrial park, which is just as if they didn't own enough of Florida. They just needed a little bit more. And a lot of people are saying that this is kind of what the church will be doing moving on in the future, to use up that money, because they're getting a lot of attention on their money now. So I think they're feeling the pressure to spend it in some way, or to certainly use it to seem to justify. I think that's why we're going to get loads of temples up, because that's empty temples. Well, yeah. So someone reached out to me and said that the Stockholm temple was barely half full when it was open. They're now closing that and doubling it in size, and the Norwegians used to go to the Stockholm temple, but they're now getting their own temple. So you've doubled the size of a temple and then halved the amount of people that are going there. And Sweden is a country that famously
had 40% of its active members leave, along with the general authority.
Yes,
that famously,
the
Swedish rescue.
Yeah, Hans Mattsson went, "Oh, this isn't right," and a load of people went, "Yeah, I agree," and then off they go. So, what are they doing? I think they're just building temples to use the money to keep themselves, because I know in America they're unassailable as a religion and their tax exempt status, but in other parts of the world, prove it or use it. They've got to keep proving that they are a charity and that they are at least spending money on their religious buildings, and they're doing something.
Well, they've gone full Scientology. They've gone that threshold into Scientology, having hardly any members now, but building huge buildings that with big flashy blue walls and things, and enormous signs on. But they're empty. It's just. It's embarrassing. But something that just occurs to me. So we've had all the giving machines and all our friends sort of volunteering in various cities around the USA and so on to go and sort of nurture a giving machine, and they're all excited about the good this is doing. What was the total entirety of what was raised by all the giving machines?
I don't know.
I bet it's a lot less than $147 million. I've no idea.
174. Yeah, that would be really interesting. Actually, if anyone knows, let us know in the comments.
Compare and contrast.
I might do,
or you could buy a shed in Miami.
Yeah, if I can't find out, I might do a short on this. The thing is, the church, all they did with the giving machines is they actually facilitated other charities to do their work, which again is no problem. Like the
Yeah.
church wants to bring money into other charities, that's fine. And as far as I'm aware, the money did really go to those charities. So like good was done. So I can't bang on it too bad. But
here's some numbers.
Oh, go on.
Yeah. So last year's in 2022, the campaign raised $6.2 million. So what's that as a percentage of 174? Since
Less than
2017, the giving machines have
0.5%.
generated more than 22 million. So total 22 million
2%
since it started.
approximately.
Yeah, not including this Christmas, but previous.
I mean, that really
Of
does
a shed
that really
they
does put it
bought
into
in Miami.
perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That really does put it into perspective and again, the Amazon warehouse was of a similar cost that they bought in Watford last year. So the church, I would love to be able to prove that the church spends more on real estate than it does on charity. My gut says it does, but I can't say it does because I can't prove it.
Oh, of course it does.
But do you know what I mean? I
it's
wouldn't
right
want to
there on
make
the
that
screen.
statement. No, but I wouldn't want to make that statement
Yeah.
without being
Yeah.
able to actually prove it numerically.
Yeah.
People come here, Peter, for the
Did you
receipts
see-
and the
Yeah.
facts. So, but my gut feeling says
And
that's
not the
probably
speculation.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you go into the comments, Mary S. Curry says, my
Yes.
daughter is a worker in the Preston temples. This is in the north of England. And
Yep.
she said that as from January, they are only open by appointment.
No way.
And they're
we're
going to build a
building
new
one in
temple
Birmingham.
in Birmingham.
Which, for the American audience, let us
Utter
just reiterate: you've got Preston Temple, London Temple, and right in the middle, Birmingham Temple. So the catchment for these temples has just had another temple come and take like a chunk out of it, like a weird Venn diagram. So rather than putting it somewhere like Ireland or Scotland, they decided to put it between the two
Jane.
existing temples. Is Jane in the chat? She'll probably get upset. But the Scots have every right to be upset. I don't want to harp on about this because the Americans probably don't care about our little parochial upsets. But the Scots have every right to be upset because a temple has been put basically where Elder Holland wanted it because he lived there once. Ultimately,
And I mean, the active membership in Scotland is easily no more than 2,000. But you can say that for Norway. And you can say that for Belgium, and you can say that for Austria, and all these other places they're putting temples.
Sure.
Yeah. And so so now it's become that ridiculous. They could definitely throw one at.
And I think they
Scotland.
will.
Come on.
Edinburgh
Temple.
We'll get to our predictions later, but I absolutely think they will. And I think it will be in Edinburgh, even though the vast majority of saints in Scotland are concentrated around Glasgow. Glasgow is the second biggest city on the British Isles after London. And yet they'll put it in Edinburgh because of course they will, or somewhere they'll call it the Edinburgh Temple, but it'll be in Stirling, right between Edinburgh and Glasgow. Yeah, that's what they'll do.
Glencoe. They'll stick it in Glencoe.
It'll be the Fort William Temple. Yeah, right up in the Highlands, 2 hours away from where everyone actually lives. So they may as well just go south of the border to Preston. Anyway, let's just move on because while the church was spending a lot of money on this, Mormonish podcast reminds us that they didn't spend any money on carbon monoxide detectors. It's very cheap, very easy to use and fit. But as the Salt Lake Tribune tells us, the LDS meeting house where 54 people fell sick wasn't required to have a carbon monoxide detector, apparently. A carbon monoxide leak affected 54 people on Sunday, according to a church spokesman. So that was last Sunday. That was New Year's Eve. At least 49 people required medical attention, 22 were hospitalized. And the church's response here, and what is being said clearly, is that, well, they weren't required to have a carbon monoxide detector. Okay. My house legally is not required to have a fire alarm in it. Do you think I don't have one? Like, the church just seems to be sitting in this perpetual state of, oh, well, if we don't have to, we won't. And it's like...
Yeah.
But why wouldn't you? For the minimal cost, why just...
Yeah.
It's 2023. I get it was rural
and
Utah, but... So?
But it's like, and this is what they apply with, whether or not to report child abusers is exactly the same morality. They have no ethics of their own. They are a corporation where the only ethics is what you can get away with legally. It's like, it's amazing. It's, Rebecca, Biblioteca of Mormonish, has got a thing going on called Trexmo, where she gets stills from Star Trek
Right.
movies and series, and then adds some Mormon twists on them. She's clearly obsessed, because we get about
You'll
3 of
lose
them a
me there.
day.
I'm
They're
not a
brilliant.
Star Trek man.
And there was one
Sorry.
scene where everyone's kind of falling asleep and being gassed on the bridge of the Enterprise, and someone's trying to keep going with the announcement of hymns. And I didn't get what it was about till I found out about the carbon monoxide poisoning story. But it's just, yeah. I mean, I can't even with this nonsense.
Sorry, it wouldn't
it's
be
just so evil. They're
it wouldn't be
endangering
fair of
people's
me.
lives, but
Mhm.
one of the mums whose child nearly died in this thing posted some gushing testimony the next day about how she's so grateful for this experience and how blessed they are by God and all this stuff. And it's like, the church nearly killed your child, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's a faith promoting story.
Can
Honestly.
I throw something out there, because it wouldn't be Nemo the Mormon podcast or episode or whatever if I didn't bag on the Americans. Someone's saying America is so behind. Now, I'm not going to make that sort of grander sweeping statement. I will say that when I arrived in America, the home of Apple, the people that invented Apple Pay, I went to a Walmart, and not only could I not use my watch to pay like I do everywhere in the UK, I also couldn't use a contactless payment card to pay. I had to put my card in and type in the numbers like a peasant. And that's 2022
Oh my
in
gosh.
in Walmart.
That's just humiliating.
So
Yeah.
sort it out, America, and get carbon monoxide detectors while you're at it, which you can buy from Walmart,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Let's move on. Let's move on to another story, which was
Mississippi Bishop,
Mississippi
man.
Bishop. Now, I
Yeah.
haven't got the whole thing. If you want the whole thing, haha, it's just in it's in Peter's new episode. But we've got this short part here.
I owe it to my work family to hear it from me. I've asked to be released. Not because of some sin, not because I'm hiding something. No. There's just a few things that I've been required to do that I personally cannot morally stand by. I can't. So I need to step down. For me and my family's well-being. It's not been easy. But I feel in many ways I'm failing the word. I know this is hard, I understand. But I have to be true to my feelings.
There we go.
Someone was commenting today, it was sacrament meeting because there was some baby crying and they weren't being taken to the cry room. Oh.
Yeah, there was a follow-up.
I was missing out for the baby this time.
There was a follow-up to this that was put out on Reddit, and he talks about, this is more than just him stepping down as a bishop. It does seem like he's had a kind of crisis of faith, and so.
Did you see the third one?
The third one of him and his
new one
family
today.
deciding what they were going to do on a Sunday.
Yeah,
go
second
on, Peter.
Saturday.
They
in the kitchen. Yes, and they're all like, "Oh, we're going to do this and this, and everyone gets to do what they want to do, and we're going to have this great family day." So they're living their best life now, and that's awesome.
Sounds like they're having a good time.
But
We don't know a lot. We don't know what it was he was asked to do that he was uncomfortable with or anything like that. And I know there's been a lot of speculation. I'm sure in his own time he'll come out and speak to it.
Yeah. I think the comments made so far from within his family are along the lines of, it wasn't anything specific or unique to them. It was the standard stuff. In which case, I think he was very clear. He clearly talked to the youth specifically. He said to them, if you feel you have something to say it. And he said, don't let other people, in effect, take over your morality. Keep your integrity. If you think something's wrong, don't be just told what to think about all your decisions and what's right and wrong and so on. And this is a guy who has to do the 6 monthly worthiness interviews, who judges children and is expected to humiliate them and not give them a temple recommend for the next baptism trip, or to tell them they can't pass the sacrament and they mustn't take the sacrament in front of the whole congregation if they've accidentally or intentionally looked at some porn this week or whatever. This was the thing. I put myself through the whole Ward Radio episode responding to him, where they're trying to slander him as, oh, well, he's a dirty Exmo and he's already filming himself and, lining himself up to be a hero in the Exmo world, and getting annoyed with him because he won't be specific about what he was asked to do. But this is what they don't get. This was a bishop who's got extreme pastoral care to his congregation, so he wasn't being specific. He spoke powerfully about principles, but without, unnecessarily stirring up specific issues. He absolutely did the right thing speaking to his ward when lots of people criticized him for saying he should just go quietly, because if he went quietly, the rumor mill would go mad. He's committed adultery, or he must have committed a really big sin, and and this way, as Lynn said to me, my wife, everyone in that room heard what he said together at the same time. You have to do that in this culture that's so judgy. And particularly if it came out that he was then leaving the church, the rumors would be endless.
And they still will be.
So it was right that he did that. Yeah, but it was right he did that. It was right to communicate with his congregation and to kind of speak to them face to face and gently ease them into this new situation. But if you're not used to just being in the bubble, you know exactly what he was being asked to do that was unethical. He was being asked to tell the poor to pay tithing and then humiliate them with welfare program systems. And he was being told to persecute teenagers for being adolescents. And, it's not rocket science to know what a bishop was being asked to do that makes them uncomfortable. There are loads of other bishops who've left who have told you what the reasons are, but it was really interesting watching these apologists who just still don't get it really, have to demonize him quickly, because rather than deal with, well, what can we actually learn from this? Why would he be under that pressure? And they were sort of trying to be nice, but didn't last very long. And obviously they have to have this war trope where, all the people who've left are just monstrous Satanists, and
of course
there's, that you can't have a good reason to leave the church. But I thought he was really brave. I'm glad he filmed it, because this is what we're doing. If change is going to happen into this church, we have to be seen to be talking about these things. To change the system, people need to know that bishops are leaving and why. And I thought that was actually a very generous act for him to our whole church community. Sometimes it's easy to be criticized for putting yourself out there as being an egotist and making it all about yourself, but it's absolutely not. If it was just about himself, he'd have slunk off quietly and gone and had his second Saturday.
Or he would have, if it was just about him, he would have also, or he would have put something horrible out there. He would have said, he would have read the CES letter out, or, he would have done something overtly.
Yeah, he wasn't being
difficult.
Yeah, exactly. Disruptive,
not like me in Sunday school.
So I think
quite respectful.
Yeah, we'll hear about that in a minute. But yeah, so I just wanted to say that in his defense, that it's quite, to make yourself a public figure in that way is a generous act to the whole community, because it forces and encourages and reassures people who have the same concerns that you're not alone and you're not stupid to have them. It's so important. It's so validating, especially in a system that is so intolerant and oppressive of any dissenting voices or questioning. It's hard to do that, but the hope for the future, and if we think about what's going to change in 2024, I think there's going to be a momentum. This is growing more and more. We've had 2 bishops come on Mormon Stories, serving bishops, to either announce their disillusionment or express concerns about corruption. From Australia and Mexico, and now we've got this guy in Mississippi. They mentioned this is something our viewers could help us with. They mentioned in the Ward Radio show that apparently a bishop in Britain had resigned. I've not heard anything this week, no. But anyway, someone may have out there. maybe they're just taking a few years to catch on to Steve Bloor. But yeah.
Maybe they've just heard about Steve Bloor now.
Yeah, yeah.
What would that be, 10 years after the
But
fact?
yeah. But this is what's changing. The reason
Mm-hmm.
Mormonism is changing in this decade is that social media, that people can't be persecuted in silence anymore. You know, they're sharing their stories, and people are getting validation and thinking, realizing they're not alone, and that is just going to escalate in 2024.
Yeah. I mean,
And the church is
part
going to have to raise its game.
it's my full-time job doing this now, and so I have to, and a lot of people would accuse me of making content for content's sake or things like that. In fact, they have accused me of that. They said, "Oh, well, see what happens when you just have to put a video out. You do X, Y, Z, blah blah blah." But I thought to myself, I gave that testimony, and afterwards, I thought, "Oh, that was filmed. I could have just got someone to record that, and I could have." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I was there for testimony, like for content for content's sake, I could have done that.
Self-aggrandized. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
But we and people do, and people will, and I think there's power in that, but also you have to be sensitive to that. I think personally, like some of the things I was talking about in Sunday school today were difficult for some people to hear for the first time. And you could kind of tell that they'd not come across this stuff before. So, for example, it was brought up that the only changes made to the Book of Mormon, or most of the changes made to the Book of Mormon, were grammatical between the first and second edition. My hand shot up, and I was like, well, actually, between the 1830 and the 1837 edition, there were changes to the theology of the Book of Mormon that coincided with some of the shifts to the first vision that happened between the 1832 and the 1838 edition. And the teacher said to me afterwards, "Oh, you're very well read," or whatever. And I was like, "Oh, you have no idea, bud. You have no idea the amount of research I've done and the amount of stuff I've sat through and whatever." So you put these things out there, and the person in front has to go, "Oh, but Joseph Smith was just, he was a 14-year-old boy, and it was so miraculous." And I was like, well, he wasn't 14 when he translated the Book of Mormon, was he? He was 14 when he had the first vision, so he says. And then you've got the several years where he has to go back and forth to the plates, and then he's in his mid-20s by the time the Book of Mormon's actually published. So again, it's just these little bits, and they seem pernickety and whatever, but it's 2024 now, and we have people in our congregations that still don't know this stuff.
No,
It's
it's
wild to me.
infantilized. I mean, we compare notes. Sometimes we're messaging each other
Yes.
at the same time, because I'm still there every Sunday, and my ward is just mostly elderly people. I don't know if that's fair anymore. I don't know, but anyway, mostly not youth, and very few of us left, and really the standard of conversation that happens in Sunday school is never more than CTR level at primary, ever.
So I'm lucky because
and
I'm in
in
Oxford, I
part,
get a bit
that's
more.
Yes, yeah, you're surrounded by academics and intellectuals. It's extraordinarily different to the usual experience. But the main issue for us is we got some missionaries back at last, and they've been going great guns, and they're actually baptizing fairly regularly. And we had a guy who's getting baptized there today. So of course you can't discuss anything controversial, because now that they don't have the gospel principles lesson for new members and investigators, every gospel doctrine lesson becomes a showcase sort of, like propaganda exercise.
And that brings us on to
and
a
you
look
ca-
ahead
yeah.
to the Book of Mormon
Yeah.
manual. So you'll keep on your point, but I just want to
Yeah.
link that to the fact that we've got this new
Yeah,
Book of
yeah,
Mormon manual
absolutely.
that is no different
Yeah.
for the teachers or the students. Continue.
It's just dreck. There is no separate teacher manual. It's just half of it is aimed at the teenagers and the kids. Come Follow Me has been dumbed down to the most boring bits of proof texts anyway. There's very little context or anything. But what they're doing now is they're giving teachers almost nothing to work with. And what is fascinating is, therefore, the little cottage industries of money-making Mormons have been busy at work. When I started Googling teacher manual for gospel for Come Follow Me, I could find loads of them in Amazon. Someone's made a whole series of them. And it took me a while to work out they weren't actually produced by the church. I mean, and there's already all these people freelancing videos and lesson content and all the rest of it. And what is happening is by not giving teachers enough to actually work with, they are now empowering every teacher of Come Follow Me to just go wild with whatever their version of the religion is, which might be very positive and nuanced and academically influenced and more informative and challenging, or it could be straight back to 80s McConkie Mormonism, as it mostly is with mine. And but you can't challenge it. You know, I had some my the person teaching our lesson today is a dear friend of mine. He's a lovely, lovely man. He's kind of got lumbered because there's so few of us. He ends up running almost everything these days, and he's kindly stepped up to teach this lesson. But in it, he did the huge logical fallacy that if the Book of Mormon is true, therefore Joseph Smith was a prophet, therefore Brigham Young was a prophet, therefore all the prophets since in the church are true, and everything the church does is true. And it's like that would also work as for us being in community of Christ. You know, it was not a steel argument. But I couldn't say anything because I'd be like Satan causing a kerfuffle in front of our guy who's getting baptized in 10 minutes. Um, and and so we get trapped. This is the feedback loop. We get trapped in infantile, stupid, logical fallacies taught as our religion, which won't stand up. And this is sort of coming back to your earlier point about the Pharisees with the rigid testimonies. They're not actually strong because they're not resilient. They fall apart as soon as they're actually challenged by anyone using rational arguments because no one has prepared them. They haven't been trained at church to have those difficult conversations. And I think the church is trying now with these new version of the gospel topics essays to use your phrase, to cognitively preload everyone to kind of gaslight themselves when dealing with difficult questions, mainly by telling them, well, you probably won't get an answer, but you've got all of your life to go on that journey and eventually find truth, rather than we don't have answers for you, and offering shallow dreck as the actual answers and information sources.
Bad.
So they're desperate because they refuse. The leadership of this church still flatly refuses to engage with the real history or help members navigate truth. All they've got is doubling down on teaching people to brainwash themselves and to accept not having answers to their questions as the answer.
And that's not going to work long
people
term.
who persist.
It's just not going to work.
Well, it's failing already.
Yeah.
So it has already failed as a strategy.
So
I think my prediction for 24 is there'll be a backlash. They'll realize that they've lost control of what's being taught in their lessons because they're not giving enough material to the teachers, speaking as a professional teacher. Pretty soon, I predict that in 2025, there'll be a teacher manual and they'll hail this as a great innovation.
Yeah, they'll almost act as though we've never had a teacher
better.
manual before, but new for 2025.
We're bringing back a teacher manual to help you.
They will. They'll sell it, and then they'll pretend
Anyway,
like
sorry.
this year never happened. No, I want to get on to predictions, but before I do, this is where I've got to go around. Hands out, please, sir. If you can donate to the channel, please donate. There should be a link in the description. If it's not there, I'll put it there. Buy my candle if you want a candle. They're excellent. They smell delicious.
They are excellent.
I sell t-shirts. They're below the video. And just generally, if you want to see me hanging out with tapirs this year, if you want to see me going to more locations where things happened and filming there and talking about them on location, all that sort of stuff takes money, and it's helpful if you can send it. Camera equipment needs upgrading this year. So I can go out and do this sort of stuff. So, anything you can send me is always well appreciated. But failing that, because this video and all this content will always be free for anyone to watch, you can just like the video. Tell YouTube that you like it. Subscribe if you're not already. Tell your friends to subscribe, because this is a wonderful community that has held me up. I don't think I gave enough praise to the community in 2023 at the end, to my dismay and to my shame. So everyone that's in the comments now, I recognize so many of your names, which is wonderful. And I love seeing you join in every single week. It's great to see you here. I see the familiar names, and you know, without getting too soppy, I work at home on my own all week. And so it's nice to see familiar names come up every week. And it's one of the reasons I've started doing more live streams, because I do like to interact live with all of you. Doug Vincent leading the charge with cash for the camera. Yeah,
Hey.
thank you very much, Doug Vincent. You are a mighty fine supporter of this channel. And he was just saying he has the candle and 3 t-shirts, so he's doing very well. But yeah, there are ways to support me if you can't financially, which is just liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with your friends, because if you find value, then I'm sure other people will too. But let's go on to predictions for the year moving ahead. I've got a couple of ones from the community that I want to share. Death Valley Dazed is such a sweet commenter. He always puts really nice comments. But this one I found quite amusing. His prediction is that Nemo and Gerardo will pull off a Gadianton snatching control of Mormon stories from John DeLynn, and that will move production studios to Carthage jail as subscribers shoot to 5 million. The Huntsman private jet will fly me back and forth from the UK to the USA, funded by the tithing refund as the lawsuit settles. John DeLynn will negotiate a $10 million salary from Netflix to produce a monthly mini-series on Mormon crime and suspense documentaries. Elder Patrick Kieran goes Manchurian apostle by whistleblowing the unseemly sides of his fellow priesthood power brokers as they launder billions of dollars through Ensign Peak advisors. After Rusty Nelson officially terminates publication of the Book of Mormon, Deseret Industries experiences stampedes of customers buying up copies, speculating on collector value. I assume he's discontinued the publication of the Book of Mormon because it has the word Mormon in it. And then he says, disclaimer, it's dark humor and satire. We appreciate it. It's very funny. And then the next one is... come on, there we go. The factory workers that make sacrament cups unionize and demand to start being paid. After a protracted strike and dwindling supply, the brethren receive a revelation. Jammy Dodgers will be used instead of bread and water for the sacrament. The prayers will be combined, and the jam will symbolize the blood. The cookie symbolizes the body, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I'm going to start a church of my own, Jammy Dodgers will be my sacrament. We know that much.
Absolutely.
So what I do have for you all to play along with, and if you go to the community tab on my channel, you will find yourself a copy of this, which is Nemo Bingo 2024. Exciting. I need some sleep. Okay, so you'll notice there's 4 blank spots for you to put your own predictions in. And that's what we will do. We will play a game of bingo this year. So I'm going to read some of these out to you. 20 new temples, an Irish temple, Ahmad Corbett becomes apostle, worsening LGBTQ rhetoric, an increase in charitable spending, warning against AI in conference. I think the church has realized AI is a buzzword and they're going to have to take a stand on it. A major land purchase of some kind, more abuse cases. We'll get another Utah temple. Softening LGBTQ rhetoric. The one smack bang in the middle, a new prophet. Because Russell cannot last forever. I don't know whether he'll make it to 100. I just don't know. I'm not wishing it. This is not me wishing his demise, but I just don't know if he will make it to 100.
No, he can't die. I've got about 5 episodes to get out first. So
I really want to see the size of the birthday party he throws himself when he hits 100. It will be monumental. Yeah. I predict 1 hour church. 1 hour church could be a thing. They will revert to the old "come follow me." That's one of the predictions. They will announce the reversion ready for the next year. There will be another Mormon TV series. You can tick that off already because Daughters of the Cult, I believe it's called. It's just come out.
Can we get that in Britain?
I don't know if we can.
Hulu, apparently.
Everyone's saying it. We had to wait a little while for Under the Banner of Heaven, which was a Hulu series.
Under the Banner of Heaven, yeah.
I think that came out on Disney Plus in the end over here, so we'll look into that. Then there's a Scottish temple. Sorry, I shouldn't have laughed. I mean, a Scottish temple, very seriously. Family proclamation will be canonized. That will come about if Oakes becomes the president.
Oakes, yeah, definitely.
Apology for past racism.
But will there be a vote?
It's an unlikely square. Yes, but will there be a vote is the question. Women get the priesthood. because that's got to be on every prediction always. Someone sues the church. I feel like that's a pretty safe bet at this point. Increasing tithing pressure, so increased pressure on the church over tithing. And then women put back on the stands. So you can get your own copy of this on the community tab. Get it, add your own little ones, share with me what those extra predictions are, and enjoy that, because it will be a good time. But we're going to play bingo. Do you have any extra predictions, Peter? What would you put in those 4 squares?
I predict Americans have no idea what bingo is, so you
What?
might have to explain this right now.
Americans, you know what bingo is.
They haven't got civilization, remember. You have to explain these things. You're not a good colonialist, honestly.
Oh, people keep saying, while I wait for the Americans to fight back at you, Peter, people say, oh, use a VPN, use a VPN. How great would it be if my channel were sponsored by, say, NordVPN or Surfshark? How great would that be? What do we think? I think that would be great. So who knows? Perhaps this might be the year of me getting sponsors for the channel to support me in my ventures. Yeah, okay, right. People are saying that they have bingo.
Oh, they do have it.
They do have bingo.
The land of bingo. Oh, excellent. Jolly good. Something to do after the line dance.
Someone said bingo is for children and the elderly. Correct. But embrace your inner child, Sapakis, and join us in bingo. So, what would you put in these, Peter? Sorry. What would
oh
you
my
put in your
gosh,
4
predictions.
spots?
I think you're spot on with loads of them. They're really good. Definitely Ahmed Corbett being the first black apostle. And then anyway, there's a whole lot of politics around that. But the last black person anyone needs to be in leadership, that's going to backfire.
He's not the man you want to pick for
woke.
tokenism, because his positions
No,
are quite...
No. I can nominate some better tokens.
Oh, hang on.
Oh, you've stumped
While
me.
you're thinking,
I've already.
JB
go
predicts the church leaders will all get arrested and have to stand down for their callings, and Nemo, John Dillon, and Peter Bleakley seize control, and everyone lives happily ever after. Can you imagine what that first presidency would be like?
Yeah.
That's wild.
I think Holland's probably going to pop his clogs this year. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Nelson does, or he'll just become extremely elderly and out of action.
Yeah. So would you put a number on the amount of
would be around...
apostles? Give us a number. How many apostles do you think will pop their clogs this year?
Who else is going? Eye-rings looking ancient. Oaks. I mean, all of them are well beyond the average lifespan. So, or loads of them are. So, I think we'll have at least 3 pop their clogs this year.
So there's your top one,
which will be a fresh start. But you don't get a fresh start with Oakes as president.
No.
So definitely, I think there'll be if Oakes becomes president, there'll be a doubling down on anti-LGBTQ stuff. That will accelerate exodus. I think there would be more of an existential crisis with open rebellion going on.
Okay.
If he tries
ramping
that
up of open
at
rebellion.
the same time as, I think we're heading towards something like more conflict and crisis points. Increase conference time. No, you won't have to increase conference time. I'll just not let anyone else speak. That's my strategy in it.
Okay, so we've got 2. What are your remaining 2 predictions?
There will be a general conference where they have only 1 female speaker.
Wow. Okay.
It's our lowest threshold 2 so far.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. There'll be one with just 1, because they're openly provoking the feminists. They're saying, after seeming to be nudging in the right direction, we only had 3 last time. They've cancelled the women's session of conference. They are literally saying, watch our patriarchy. What are you going to do about it? We are doubling down on this. We're not going woke even slightly. So I think I'm predicting a 1-woman speaker general conference.
Okay. And one final prediction?
Let the people come up with the rest. What have I written down?
There's a lot in the chat that the first gay apostle. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Well, we've had a few already, I believe. But anyway, there's this new rhetoric around where they are now. There's something in those new gospel topics where they're saying that the leaders have made mistakes, and the way to approach history of the church, I think it's in their general guidance, is to understand the context of the times and all of that nonsense, which wasn't actually that long ago. Our great grandparents were, or great great grandparents were around in the 1800s. The so there will be, I think, a shift in rhetoric towards acknowledging past leaders have been wrong, but they will never, never say what they were actually wrong about. They'll just unleash it as a concept, but they won't take any kind of responsibility for apologies or giving or explaining that while claiming to be prophets.
Okay.
Which is a bit nerdy as a prediction. Sorry.
That's all
There you
right.
go.
I'm just putting the links into the chat for everyone, so that they can actually do all the stuff I'm telling them to do. But
Yeah.
I will stop doing that immediately. Right, I'm going to remove that bingo card. But everyone, enjoy your bingo card for the year. We'll refer back to it as we go throughout the year. I might do conference bingo cards. Wouldn't that be novel? I know Exmos like to do their Exmo conference bingo cards, so we might just play on someone else's. But conference bingo was always a fun way to pass the time as a youth, and I think looking at it from a more cynical perspective, shall we say, that'll be fun. Oh, Captain K's prediction is John Dillon will travel to Europe and Africa and do interviews with ex-Mormons. I'd love to just go around Europe and Africa doing interviews with ex-Mormons, but and I'm closer. But traveling interviews are very difficult logistically to do. So I'm not sure we'll see that. And
They
expensive.
do need to diversify, though. I mean,
They do. I've tried.
Mormon stories are still, I know, well done.
But at the
bit
same
like
time,
our
I haven't
token
been
Brit in the
seeking people out.
apostleship. Yeah.
Because
No, they
it is
need to
time-consuming.
get out. Yeah, they need to get out of the Utah bubble and talk to more people internationally and of different races and cultures. That it's just not enough at the moment. I love all their content; it's all fantastic, but it's still a bit stuck in a rut of sort of middle class white people. I think that.
Well,
I think I would more working class, because there's very little of that.
Well, we will spearhead that, Peter, with our very posh accents. We will spearhead the international perspective.
Bring me peasants.
Someone's
talk
saying
to
they
them.
think Patrick Kieran will lead the British rescue. He very well could try.
Ooh,
I just don't know whether
interesting.
Britain
Yeah.
is at the point of being rescuable at this point.
No.
It's
No,
sad.
that opens possibilities. That is
It does,
interesting.
and I think it's been very well received by people both sides of the aisle. And we won't get into this now because we could talk for hours about Patrick Kieran, as we will, I'm sure, over the coming weeks and months. That's certainly what we will be doing. Over the next 12 months.
Oh,
So,
Sherry is thank you, Kevin M. Sherry is definitely being posthumously sealed to Nelson if she isn't already in secret. I'd put a lot of money on a revelation that she was already sealed to him.
Yeah. Well, okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Peter, for joining me. I hope the Peter fans got their fix. If you haven't got your fix, be sure to check out his latest video. I'll put a link in the description, and I'll do all those links within the next 5 minutes or so. So don't worry about that. But thank you very much, everyone, for joining me. We've had about 300 people watching, which is excellent. Normally, YouTube slows down during January, but I think there's a solid community here of people who have come out and want to be involved. Choose to Tim Rathbone. But thank you very much. I'm really excited for the 12 months ahead. I've got lots of ideas. I'm looking forward to sharing them with you. So, yeah, stick around. Stick that notification bell on so you don't miss anything.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.